Faisal, in the work we talk about the three centers, the head, heart, and belly center. And it would be so helpful to have discernment of these types of learning.
Yes, it's really very, very interesting field. This is, as usual, big subject. I hope the audience bear with me. I try to summarize a little bit here and summarize a little bit. And sometimes they might think it's not enough or superficial. And sometimes it is, but bear with me. And please keep in mind, you know, to the listener that usually when I try to address a subject, I try to think of the three different kind of people and their way of learning. You know? So I sometimes articulate the same subject one way, then I articulate it differently, second way, then third way. And the intention is that I'm trying to transmit or reach the different groups of people in their different locations, in their centers.
Okay.
So there are people who are head-oriented. And in the Enneagram, that's the people 5, 6, 7, you know. They are so much in their head is very sophisticated, very developed, cultivated, and they also control the nervous system. So their whole system is, nervous system and brain is like a giant internet, you know, of information, you know. And they are fascinated by knowledge. And when you bring a subject, then the information goes into trillions of pathways and knowledges, and I mean, you name it. Some of it is really delightful to listen to. Some of the 6s I love just listening to, you know, just because they can't go like that. And some of it is like clabbering like rocks on the head, you know, really like concrete and heady. And, you know, see it in some of the 5s, like I sometimes look so hard. Their head is so hard, but they are oriented through knowledge, through information, you know, and they can understand even the whole spiritual journey through analysis and through concept and through belief systems, you know. Some of them, you see that they, for example, love what Hamid writes, you know, so much about, he uses his head and it's very developed and sophisticated and highly articulated. It's really wonderful. But it only touches certain kind of people. And I really had struggled with it when I was with him when we were in the school, because I felt it was leaving 2/3 of the groups out. You know, it was so much appealing to the 5, 6, 7, and there was so much wide of range of knowledge, and in fact, some of the knowledge was so difficult to understand. It was like mathematics. You know, I was mathematical major. So when I get into an essential domain and this, I try to shorten it in a formula, X plus Y equals Z, you know, but it becomes like tons of bricks if I say it to a student. So I had to dilute it, you know, to do all of that.
What about 7s?
5, 6, 7, yes. Those
But
3.
what about 7s? What's an example of
7 is their interest is in always, they want to see the bigger picture, the cosmic global picture, you know. Okay. And sometimes you just want to deal with it like that. What does that have to do with the price of meat? You know, before we talk about the cosmic origin of all of those things, let's have at least a bite before we do anything. So those 3 are so much in the head, and their blockage, their armoring is in the nervous system. So through precise knowledge, you can undo the blockages in the nervous system by precise knowledge. By definition, by precise knowledge, they get it, they understand it, they begin to unwind, and they begin to experience some of it, the essential states or the energies or the emotions, you know. But they need that kind of sophistications. You know, sometimes I try to, honestly, I'm going to talk open, try to read Hamid's book. I was there when we originated, when we developed it. I know the material, you know, and I love, you know, his writing, but I cannot read more than 2, 3 pages. I get clobbered. Honestly, I like, you know, it's way too much. So those people find it very interesting, and you see many of them, many spiritual teachers, 5 or 6s or 7, they always addressing the absolute as a way of knowing. you know. I even saw one of the latest videos of one of those teachers, I don't want to name him, saying that God wanted to know himself in an individual way, so he created individuality. So there is individuated Godhood, but it is only creation by the cosmic God in order to know himself, you know. So they're all about to know or not to know oneself through knowledge or through sometimes experience. That is fine, and they need to be addressed in that way, because that's how they can do, you know. In fact, in the old time bioenergetics, we would block them from even talking or analyzing or anything. We just say, breathe, hit, yell, scream, show me some feelings, show me some emotion, show me some energies. I'm tired of analysis. I'm tired of all of those issues, you know. But then I find out later on, you really need to meet them where they are. So I go with them through analysis, through theories, through intricacies, you know, having the diamond body, or for the people in the world, goes through the internet of the nervous system. And as it opens up, they have experiences, you know. But then they think this is the way. No, it's not the way, you know. Then if we come to the second kind of people, which are heart-oriented people, emotional people, they can understand intellectually, you know, they are not so bad, you know, they have good mind, they can understand it, but it doesn't really make that much difference. They can get the idea, but unless they get the feeling, unless they get the emotional feeling, it wouldn't make any sense to them. Still, they don't understand it. So they had to emote it, they had to feel it. And the way of feeling it is not necessarily through analysis, not through the conceptual domain, you know. I remember sometimes I don't want to hear any idea. I want to watch an Indian movie and look at all the misery of existence and cry for 3 hours. I don't want to understand loss of my mother and father. I just needed to feel my crying, my emotional feeling, all of those things. So that the teaching has to also address the way of the heart, the way of emotions, you know, till the emotional heart gets upgraded and purified to reach the essential heart, you know. But those people, including me, you know,
2, 3, 4.
Sorry?
2, 3, 4.
2, 3, 4. Yes, in the Enneagram, they are 2, 3, 4. They can understand through music. You know, I can't read a book, but put me one piece of music and it moved me to the domain that this whole book is trying to say. You know, I could listen to this beautiful singer say, hug me, hold me, and I get the pearl. Like, oh, you know, and she sings about this and I melt like gold, you know. But I could study gold and merging with Madar and all of those issues, and like, okay, sounds very good. But I needed a different kind of mechanism that touches the center. And this center doesn't function conceptually. It functions through image, it functions through feeling, emotion, it functions through visualization, it functions through different kind of circulation of energy. So those also students in the path need to be addressed that way. So many of them go to the path of Bhakti. Bhakti?
Yeah, Bhakti.
Yeah. So they go in like Hare Krishna and singing and dancing and whirling and things like that, you know. So devotional. It reached them that way. With a little bit of guidance, they can understand what's going on and they can objectify it, and it becomes an essential experience as objective as we understand it intellectually. So they have the intelligence of heart, not the intelligence of head. So there are 3 intelligences. Intelligence of the head, which is intellectual, knowledgeable, intellectual of heart, which is loving and feeling and richness and music and art, that whole dimensionality. And there is intelligence of the belly, suchnesses, fullnesses, mobility, you know, like Qigong, Tai-Chi, Aikido. All of these movements have to do with the center of the belly center. And you see so much of it like in Zen. You know, if you go tell Zen all of these concepts or all of these emotions and oi, 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 and God, Allah, I long for you, I love you. Say, cut the crap, you know? Don't call it a hand, don't call it not a hand. What is it? So they immediately go to stopping the mind, stopping the emotions, and you feel the suchness of things, you know? So the 189 learn by the transmission of the state itself, by feeling the suchness of the state itself. Then they can translate it emotionally, then they can translate it intellectually, you know? And I remember at one time in the school, many students were clobbered by the complexity of the teaching, you know, and the psychological theories, you know, separation, individuation, and so many things. They couldn't, you know, and at one time we thought to send them to go take courses in math or to courses in logic, or, you know, in order, like they have to get first a PhD in intellectual and develop an ego that's so sophisticated, only to end up later on undoing it. Like you have to study 12, 13 years, then to undo it. And I remember that troubled me greatly because I feel we were trespassing. Even though Hamid and me, we were so much bodily oriented. We were doing bioenergetics, Reiki therapy. We were both involved in Reiki therapy. But in the teaching of the work, we didn't so much look at that, you know. And many of the students suffered from the delivery of how the teaching came. The 5, 6, 7 found their paradise. But the 2, 3, 4 suffered really a lot. 1, 8, 9 suffered even more, you know, like that. So once we understand how people understand, where is their bliss? Some people, their bliss is in the head. Some people is in the heart. Some people is in the belly. Where is their consciousness? Some people, their consciousness is in the head, 5, 6, 7. Some people, consciousness is in the heart, 2, 3, 4. Some people, their consciousness is in the belly, you know. Some people, their intelligence is in the head, and some people, their intelligence in the heart, and some people, their intelligence in the belly. And these are different intelligences, and they are equal. You know? I could talk to 5, 6, 7, and they will never even remember to have a sandwich, to have lunch. We could just talk about
so true.
food in the world. Honestly.
No, I know it's so true. It's so true.
They're starving, and I'm starving, you know. But 9 is like, first, what does it have to do with the price of meat? Let's get the meat, then we can talk where the meat comes from, where the milk comes from, Safeway or the farm or whatever. You know? I talk about it delightfully, and I think for us as a teacher and for us as students, to know where is our bliss, where is our center of power, and to cultivate it. In the center, in these corners, in the center, there is a quality of essence we call objective consciousness. The consciousness that can look at issues, can look at emotions, can look at sensations without identifying with it. We can look at the concept, see what's it about. We can look at the emotion, feel it and allow it, or the sensation, allow it, without identifying with it. This consciousness is very elegant, very sophisticated, and it's the inner guide. And I call it the diamond body, the diamond consciousness inside. You know? For the 5, 6, 7, their diamond consciousness is in their head. My diamond body was not in my head, even though I was, you know, I was a mathematician, my head was good, but I'm not an intellectual. I love it. I love listening to Hamid or others when they talk, you know, sometimes I really cannot, you know, but I'm capable of that. But my consciousness was in my heart. I wrote 4 books of poetry. I love painting. I love art. I love people, seeing them dressing in elegance. I love architecture. I love colors. I love, you name it, you know.
And you've also published a book, Physicians of the Heart.
Physicians of the Heart. The beauty of all of that.
So
and in the heart exists where the point of light lives. There is in the heart, in the center of the heart, there is a heart of heart. In the heart, there are 3 hearts. There is the big heart. The center of it is in the solar plexus. That's the cosmic heart. And there is the heart in the chest, you know, this emotional heart. And this emotional heart can cultivate and develop into love and compassion and all of that. That's heart center. In the heart of heart, in the center of it, there is the gold locket heart, the sacred heart of Mary or the sacred heart of Christ. That gold locket heart is where the point of light is, where the soul resides. And now it's locked because of fear and the ego trying to hold it and protect it. So when you go there, one heart after another develop, and one richness after another develop. And in the sacred heart is where the inner God and the inner goddess reside. That's why all the teachers, spiritual teachers, they say, choose the path of heart. Ultimately come to heart, come to love, come to compassion. You know, it's not just to intelligence. It's not just to knowing and all of those things. It's more like, yes, bring it down to heart.
Bringing the belly and the head centers together into the heart.
Yes. Why God chose the heart? Because it's between the two. The head, which is space and openness and knowledge and all of that. Belly, where it is actualization and concretization of existence. This is the middle ground between the two. And this is where we can balance the universe. We can balance the abstract, otherwise we live just abstraction. You know, we'll be really living in a beautiful schizophrenic field where nothing, you know, or we become all the time, what does it have to do with the price of meat? What does it have to do with the price of meat? You know, nothing but materialism and greed and fear and survival, you know. And the heart is the throne of God, where the God and the goddesses reside. The chest is the throne room. The sacred heart is the seat, the throne itself, where the point of light settles. I am now becoming poetic, talking foolish way, you know, about the beauty of the heart center and the beauty of this design of this vehicle. It's really magnificent vehicle, and maybe someday we talk about the structure of this vehicle that occupies this body, you know. So the intelligence of the 2, 3, 4 is in the heart. It doesn't mean they are in the level I am talking about. That those people who are heart-centered mostly caught in the emotional heart. Retain those 3 sacred heart into emotionality and intensity and reactivity, and it loses the beauty and the elegance. But when that is specified, this is where poetry comes. You know, this is where beauty comes. This is where art and visions, you know. So you use the highest aspiration and the highest actualization, and you modify the two to have something more balanced.
So beautiful. You know, earlier this week when we spoke, you shared a story about your wife that I thought was so beautiful. I wonder if you'd be willing to share that. Yes,
yes. And the third people is that they have their diamond consciousness in the belly. They are so intelligent physically. You know, really, like sometimes, like I call to some people come, for example, to help. I call some of those Mexican guys. Most of them are 9s, you know. They are just so dense and all of those things to move things. Like I need to move furniture in the house and to move all of those things, you know. If I call 6 or 5 or 6s, my God, I end up with one plan after another of how to move this and which is to go first, and we will have debate, you know, really dissertation about it. And those guys come and their belly center is so intelligent, they undo and they move efficiently, you know, they are not lazy. You know, they're not in the negative side of it. But if they have the belly intelligence, it's amazing how their guts have certain intelligence, certain resiliency, certain mobility. You know, they function in the world in a way that 5, 6, 7 are really paralyzed. You know, really, if you are a role for, or if you are a body worker, if you look at a 5 or a 6, 7 in the Enneagram walking, you see them walking from the head, sending information to the arm to move. You know,
yes.
Honestly, you know, like,
yes.
You know, that in the, what they call it, that character, you know, in the Yellow Brick Road, you know, the Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, one of those characters, like, you know, like that, you know, it's like a head.
Tin Man.
Tin Man, like that, you know. And if you look at a 9, they are moving like an elephant, like, you know, like really together. If you come to a 3, they move so elegantly. Not so much physical, not so much mental. They have balance. That's why you see so many of the actors and actresses are 2s and 3s, because they have cultivated the vehicle. to the abdomen, you know.
Okay.
It's elegant form, it's elegant maneuverability and all of those. These are different intelligences. They are really beautiful. But I remember like at one time when we were really doing the work and the work was transmitted so much, you know, Hamid was teaching it so much, even though he's trying to bring it to the body, but he was so much in his head too, trying to sort out the complexity of the teaching, you know.
Yes.
And many people were suffering, including my ex-wife, you know. She was in the work and she was to go there and she used to feel clobbered. She comes crying sometimes from the meetings. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. I must be really dumb. I must be, you know, all of those things. She was going through a lot of this deficiency, self-blame, and you know, issues. And I remember other friends too, other women too, they say, oh, I just have so much headache. You know, when I listen to Hamid, I must have father issues and blockages in my head. And he said, yes, you have to work on your father, see why you're blocking your head and all of those things. We were caught in a way of looking at things that was not objective enough. After leaving the school and I started my own adventure, I began to realize the different ways of learning. And I remember telling, you know, when I realized that, I told my wife, who was 1 on the Enneagram, she was an exquisite person, an exquisite being. She was a ballet dancer. She was an artist, you know. I mean, she has so much talent. She was a healer, but she has no sense of any of the value of that or the riches of that because she couldn't understand this concept or that concept. And she couldn't apply it this way or that way, you know. She couldn't get this analytical approach working, you know. So when I realized that, wait a minute, she has an incredible intelligence, where is it? And then when I realized that the diamond body for a 5 is in the head, for a 3 is in the heart, for a 1 is in the belly, I pointed to her that her diamond body is in her belly. She has elegant way of moving, efficient way of manipulating the environment and her body and all of those things, and that she understands body work. She doesn't need the theories. She could feel it. She could do hand-on, do craniosacrum work, do orthobionomy. All of a sudden, she found her bliss. All of a sudden, that immense deficiency that was crippling her came to be just an ego deficiency produced by a system that was not allowing her to discover her bliss. As if her diamond body let up, you know, and all of a sudden, she really exploded. She, you know, I mean, beside having our child and studying so many systems and body work and healing and energy and essential state, knowing the essential state from the body center, knowing how it really feels, not all the theories about it, you know. Like you could read the whole book sometimes, honestly, you know, I haven't read any book fully of Hamid, but you could read the whole book, but you don't know what's it about. Like a trickle down essence, trickle down economics, and instead of trickle down, and it's abundance of essence. She got in the ocean of essence, and the diamond body began to sort out those essential states, give them names, give them a quality, and she utilized them to cultivate so many things, including, you know, even though she was a ballet dancer and loved music, she could never sing a song. And all of a sudden, when her belly got full by pregnancy and our son came, she composed over 50 songs with their music, words and music. And she gave it to an artist, to a singer, and she had albums, you know, selling the music. It was watching miracle unfolding, not through the way that we were teaching. Yet we still followed the diamond guidance. That's what I want to emphasize to everybody. The diamond guidance for somebody might bring the whole teaching through music. I had a client who says, I can hear, you know, when I listen to a piece of music, which chakra it's coming from. Maybe 1/10 of this chakra with 1/3 of this chakra, 1/5 of the chakra. And you could feel this chakra field, you know, resonating with music. And then I had another artist who taught the whole work through painting and music and movement, you know. So he combined belly, heart, and intellect and transmission of the teaching. So to all of those who are listening and sometimes having difficulty with the spiritual teaching, look which corner you are. Where is your bliss? Where is your power? Tap on it. Feel your guidance, your intelligence shining in this center or in this center. Hold on to it. When you find the guide, hold on to its rope. Don't let it go. Find your bliss. Fan it. If you are a musician, listen to more music and try to differentiate it. If you are intellectual, look at the concept and how they run in the system. If you are a gut person, look at the different hormones and essential state that changes in the body. And you will be like going through quantum leaps in your evolution. It's really remarkable that we are equipped with so much bliss, you know. But we think knowledge is in the head, or intelligence is in the head, you know, and no, not really.
I love it. Thank you, Faisal.
Yes.